The story opens inside the luxurious residence of a tycoon named Martin Haddaw, who is spending a quiet evening in the living room with his wife while they enjoy their favorite television show. Their peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted by the non-stop barking of their domestic dogs. Annoyed by the noise, they ask one of the servants to take the pet dog outside for a while. As soon as the maid steps out of the house, a mysterious man suddenly appears and brutally kills her, then proceeds to murder Martin and his wife inside the house. The man's name is Meezer. At this point, the motive behind the killings is still unclear. However, the cold and precise way Meezer carries out the murders strongly suggests that he is a professional hitman. Once he is certain that everyone is dead, Meezer calmly leaves the scene and returns to his car, believing his mission is complete. The story then shifts to a young woman named Ella Haddaw, the biological daughter of Martin Haddaw, who is currently studying in Switzerland. Completely unaware of the tragedy unfolding back home, Ella continues her life far away from the chaos. Even if she were to learn about her father's death, she might not feel much sadness. Ever since her mother passed away, Ella has harbored deep resentment toward her father because he remarried just hours after her mother's funeral. Martin's behavior, which Ella believes showed a complete lack of respect for her mother's memory, caused her to emotionally distance herself from him. As a result, Ella feels indifferent about whatever happens to her father and his new wife. Meanwhile, the story introduces another hitman named Lucas, widely known as a highly skilled and accomplished assassin. This time, Lucas receives a special assignment that is different from his usual contracts. Instead of killing, he is ordered to kidnap someone. The target turns out to be Ella Haddaw, who is currently in Switzerland. It is later revealed that the person who hired Lucas is the same individual who paid Meezer to massacre Martin Haddaw's family. The reason this mysterious employer does not reuse Meezer for the kidnapping remains unknown. However, one thing is clear. The ultimate goal is to wipe out all of Martin Haddaw's descendants so that none of them remain alive. Back to Ella. She secretly sneaks out of her dormitory to meet her boyfriend at a bar, completely unaware that Lucas, the hitman assigned to kidnap her, has been carefully observing her movements from a distance. After spending some time with her boyfriend, Ella starts feeling uneasy when she notices a suspicious man watching her. She assumes that Lucas is a bodyguard secretly sent by her father to monitor her. Feeling uncomfortable and constantly watched, Ella decides to leave the bar immediately. However, unknown to her, another killer is already stalking her from behind. When Ella is moments away from being killed, Lucas suddenly steps in and saves her. Since his mission requires Ella to be taken alive, Lucas forcefully pulls her into his car to protect her from the immediate threat. Lucas continues to shield Ella as they are relentlessly chased by enemies whose identities remain unknown. The pursuit leads them into the mountainous regions of Switzerland. During the intense chase, Lucas manages to ram the pursuer's vehicle, causing it to plunge into a deep abyss. Lucas exits the car to confirm that the enemy is truly dead. At that moment, Ella and her boyfriend take advantage of the situation and escape from the car. To them, Lucas is still a stranger and someone they cannot fully trust. Seeing them flee, Lucas chases after Ella and her boyfriend when he notices them attempting to contact the police. Acting quickly, Lucas stops them and throws away the phone they were using. When the sound of another approaching vehicle is heard, Lucas orders them to hide in the bushes, believing that more killers may still be searching for them. After the car passes, Lucas finds himself conflicted about continuing his mission. Looking at Ella, who is still a teenager and completely unaware of the dangerous situation surrounding her, Lucas's conscience begins to trouble him. Unable to go through with it, Lucas decides to let Ella go. However, his act of mercy comes too late. His superiors receive a report that Lucas is attempting to protect the target. Lucas is now trapped in an impossible situation. If he refuses to hand over Ella, his own family will be targeted and killed. With deep pain in his heart, Lucas ultimately chooses to continue the mission. He chases Ella again, forcibly takes her back, and drives away, leaving her boyfriend behind. Shortly afterward, Lucas stops at a parking lot to steal another car, because the previous one is too damaged to continue. He steals a parked vehicle and places Ella inside the trunk. His objective is to cross the French border safely. Reluctantly, Ella complies and gets into the trunk. What Lucas does not realize is that Ella suffers from claustrophobia, a severe fear of confined spaces that triggers overwhelming anxiety. Trapped inside the trunk, Ella is forced to battle her condition while they approach the border checkpoint. The story then moves to England, revealing a wealthy businessman named Richard as the true mastermind behind the massacre of Martin Hattaw's family. His motive is simple and ruthless: money. Richard not only wants control over Martin's vast assets, but he also harbors deep hatred toward Martin for knowing about his illegal operations and possibly planning to expose them to the authorities. Richard is not acting alone. He is secretly working with Gina, a corrupt FBI operative. Together, they discover that Martin had transferred all of his wealth into a separate secured account. With Martin dead, Richard and Gina aim to seize full control of the assets and eliminate any obstacles, including Ella, the last surviving heir. Back to Lucas, who has now arrived in France and entered a secluded house. While Ella remains locked inside the trunk, Lucas contacts Richard to confirm the safety of his own family. Richard coldly responds that if Lucas wants his family to live, he must deliver Ella to him. Hearing this, Lucas immediately removes Ella from the trunk and brings her inside the house instead of handing her over. When Ella asks to use the bathroom, she secretly calls the police, hoping for help. Unfortunately, the call is answered by Gina, the rogue FBI agent working with Richard. Using her manipulative skills, Gina deceives Ella by portraying Lucas as a heartless and dangerous killer. The innocent Ella believes everything Gina says. When Ella comes out and attempts to escape, Lucas blocks her path. Tearfully, Ella begs Lucas to let her go. Overcome by guilt and pity, Lucas finally allows her to leave. However, shortly after, Lucas realizes his mistake and chases after her. He finds Ella using a public payphone. At this moment, Lucas tells Ella the truth about her family's death. He honestly explains that he is a hired killer who was ordered to kidnap her, but this mission goes against his conscience. By choosing to protect her, Lucas has also made himself a target. He promises Ella that he will not hurt her. After hearing the truth, Ella finally understands the situation and agrees to fight alongside Lucas against the people hunting them. They stop at a store to buy snacks. While Lucas is drinking from his favorite bottle, a sudden gunshot shatters it. Realizing they are under attack, Lucas and Ella quickly take cover. As Lucas confronts the attackers, Ella bravely keeps moving to avoid being captured. When she attempts to escape through a back window, a criminal is already waiting outside with a gun. At the last second, Lucas crashes his car into the attacker, saving Ella's life once again. Lucas immediately drives away with Ella. After some time on the road, Lucas suddenly stops the car and asks Ella to take the steering wheel. Injured and exhausted, Lucas moves to the back seat to tend to his wounds, while Ella, still inexperienced with driving, tries to control the car. Ella initially found it difficult to distinguish between the brake, clutch, and gas pedals. However, after making a few adjustments, she was finally able to drive the car reasonably well. Suddenly, her concentration was broken when she glanced at Lucas lying weakly in the back seat. In that moment of distraction, Ella narrowly avoided other vehicles, causing the car to crash into a tree. The impact rendered the car completely unusable. Because of this incident, Lucas and Ella decided to continue their journey by train. Before leaving, Lucas took time to call his family to make sure they were still safe. He also contacted an old friend who worked as a nurse at a hospital, asking for help to meet them on the train and treat his injuries. When the train arrived, they boarded it. Waiting for them was Danny, a nurse and Lucas's best friend, who had often helped treat his wounds in the past. After making sure Lucas's condition was stable, Danny approached Ella and quietly warned her not to trust Lucas too much. In Danny's eyes, Lucas was nothing more than an addict and a heavy drinker. She told Ella that if she were in her place, she would get off at the very next station and run as far away as possible. Danny even gave Ella some money, telling her to use it if she truly decided to leave. After delivering her warning, Danny returned to Lucas and took out the illegal items she had brought for him. Seeing them immediately tempted Lucas, and he felt an urge to use them right away. However, Lucas began to notice that Danny's movements felt strange and different from usual. Sensing that something was wrong, Lucas became angry and demanded to know where Ella was. "What's going on?" Met it. After escaping Meezer's pursuit, Lucas later takes Ella and boards a ship bound for the English city of Leeds. During the journey, Ella takes advantage of the time to learn how to use weapons from Lucas, preparing herself for possible future threats. She learns the basic techniques, while Lucas patiently guides her and makes sure she is ready to handle emergency situations. When they arrive at Lucas's residence, Ella notices several photographs of small children on the wall. Lucas explains that they are pictures of his children. He later confesses that he has never met them in person, even since his wife was still pregnant. His wife left him and chose to live alone, keeping Lucas completely separated from his children. When Ella sees Lucas preparing to use his illegal substances, she begins to understand why his wife left him. Ella bluntly tells him that his children are better off not knowing a father who is trapped in addiction. Lucas realizes the painful truth in her words and finally decides to throw away the illicit items. Although he knows that doing so will cause severe withdrawal symptoms, Lucas chooses to endure it in hopes of gaining a new chance at life and becoming a better person. Afterward, Ella grows curious about Richard, the man responsible for killing her family. She searches the internet for information about him and eventually finds the location of his company. With strong determination, Ella approaches Lucas, who is suffering heavily from withdrawal symptoms, and tells him that she plans to confront Richard at his office. She asks permission to borrow the gun lying on the table. Lucas, still weakened by withdrawal, tries to stop Ella and warns her not to do anything reckless. However, Ella ignores his warning and immediately leaves the house. Armed with courage and a gun she has never used before, Ella heads straight to Richard's office. Upon arriving, Ella unexpectedly meets Richard face to face and immediately points the gun at him. Before she can pull the trigger, the sound of approaching police sirens distracts her. Startled, Ella flees the building. Outside, she is soon arrested and taken in for questioning. However, the interrogation does not last long. Richard deliberately arranges for her release and sends Gina to pick her up. It turns out that Richard has a hidden agenda. He wants access to the millions of dollars Martin hid, money that has been transferred into Ella's account and will be frozen by the authorities within an hour. Ella gets into Gina's car, which is supposedly taking her to the airport. During the drive, Gina keeps questioning Ella about her Swiss bank account under the pretense of investigating her father's murder. Gina even asks Ella to fill out a form containing personal information such as her username, bank name, and account PIN. Ella begins to grow suspicious when Gina lies about their location, claiming they will arrive at the airport soon even though they have already passed it. Eventually, Gina admits that she is working with Richard and drives Ella to a location where Meeser is already waiting. At that moment, Ella realizes she has been trapped in a deadly game orchestrated by Richard. After enduring withdrawal symptoms for a long time, Lucas finally recovers and returns to his house. As soon as he arrives, the home alarm is triggered, indicating an intruder inside. Checking the CCTV footage, Lucas sees an unknown figure sneaking through the house, clearly one of Richard's men. Silently, Lucas approaches and kills the intruder swiftly. However, the shock does not end there. When Lucas turns around, he finds Danny standing behind him with a gun pointed at him. It is revealed that Danny has been bribed by Richard with a large sum of money and knowingly followed his orders, even betraying her closest friend. Using his experience and combat skills, Lucas manages to kill Danny, though doing so leaves him emotionally shattered. Her betrayal leaves a deep wound in Lucas's heart. After dealing with Danny, Lucas rushes to find Ella, fearing she is in grave danger. Meanwhile, Meeser and Gina arrive at Richard's house and drag Ella into the basement for interrogation. When Ella refuses to speak, Gina contacts Richard, who is hosting an important party upstairs, to ask for further instructions. At the same time, Lucas arrives at Richard's residence and stands in front of the gate. Using a gun hidden inside his jacket, he threatens the guard and orders him to open the gate immediately. Recognizing Lucas as a notorious and highly skilled killer, the guard obeys without resistance. Once the gate opens, Lucas kills the guard mercilessly. Inside the house, the guests and Richard himself are startled by the noise coming from the front gate. At first, they think it is just firecrackers. Richard becomes alarmed when the guard fails to answer his calls. His fear turns to shock when he sees Lucas already standing among the crowd. As Richard reaches for his gun, Lucas aims his weapon at him and demands to know where Ella is. They have her in the basement. After learning that Ella is still alive and being held underground, Lucas pulls out his gun and drags Richard toward the basement. As negotiations begin, a young boy, Richard's nephew, unexpectedly approaches, holding a bow and arrow. In the chaos below, Ella tries to hide while Meeser relentlessly hunts her down, intent on killing her. Panicked and unsure where to run, Ella discovers a hidden tunnel and rushes inside to escape. However, during her escape, Meeser suddenly appears and shoots Ella in the shoulder, causing her to collapse in pain. Lucas, who witnesses the incident, immediately reacts. Lucas immediately attacked Meeser with all the strength he had left. However, before Lucas could finish him off, Meeser was suddenly shot by one of Richard's aides, leaving Lucas completely shocked. The aide mistakenly assumed that Meeser was still secretly working together with Lucas, even though it was clear that Meeser was actually on Richard's side. Because of his injuries, Lucas was no longer in a condition to fight back against the armed aide. As the aide raised his weapon and prepared to pull the trigger, the situation seemed hopeless. But at that critical moment, Ella, who was still half-conscious despite her injury, managed to lift her gun and shoot the aide. Her desperate action saved Lucas's life. As for Richard, his fate was still to be decided. Lucas did not waste any time. He immediately carried Ella and rushed her to an ambulance that was already evacuating several other injured people from the scene. Seeing Ella in such a helpless condition deeply worried Lucas, especially because the gunshot wound she suffered was extremely severe. Several months after the incident, Ella ultimately survived and was able to start a new life. She went to live with her aunt and cousin in America. Although she had lost both her father and mother, Ella was still able to find happiness and peace living with her remaining family. Meanwhile, Lucas successfully overcame his addiction, inspired by the words and advice Ella had given him. Having changed his life, Lucas finally went to see his wife and children, hoping they would accept him again, not just as a husband, but as a father and the rightful head of the family. With that hope, the story comes to an end. If you love the explanation, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing story breakdowns. Thanks.